Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Hakohen. Good morning to you over here. A little bit cloudy down here, but otherwise good weather. Everybody can hear me great. Baruch Hashem. Welcome to the room. We'll kick started our Parshas today. Actually, Rabbi Kefa, I want to just put up the Parshas today is Achrei. That will be from the book of, Leviticus, chapters 16 verse 1. That's our Parsha today. If you just want to kindly do that for me. I should have done it. I can do it, but I'll have to pause while it's being done. Let's see. Okay, can I do it? Maybe I can do it. Okay, apply. Alright, so we'll get started, and I've done it. It's okay to do. So we'll kick start it a little earlier, and then the rest of the people can fall in line. I have pretty important statements to make, pretty important teachings to give, because I was looking back at my ministry, and it's been 22 years since I've been teaching the Torah, basically. I've been in this for 22 years and a bit. This is the 23rd year, by the way. 22 is a great number, because 22 is a number of Hebrew alphabet. And I was having a conversation the other day with somebody, and I said to them that a lot of people like to think, when they read Neville's books or some other books, they might think that because one of the belief systems that Neville had was that Moses didn't exist as a character, and neither did Abraham, and neither did anybody else. It's just stories. They're just stories to teach a point. Here, I would strongly disagree with Neville Goddard completely, because if Neville was alive today, he would have to probably change his mind and his words as well. He did leave people with some good information, but I think his viewpoint was entirely wrong regarding the characters, the forefathers that we call our forefathers of old. Reason very simple, that we didn't have to prove that Moses existed or Abraham existed. In fact, Gentiles are proving that. We don't have to prove it. Gentiles are proving it. There was a guy back in 2012, a Gentile man, who proved that he pieced together the inscriptions from the hieroglyphs in the Egyptian tombs. He pieced them together, and he said that he pieced together names of Moses, the names of Joseph, and the names of Asenath, his wife. He pieced those together, and he presented that as an evidence back in 2012 that these people were not just legendary people, but these were actual real characters that existed in Egypt at one time. Now, everything that we do revolves around Egypt, and before that with Abraham. Everything that we do revolves around it. The whole Torah revolves around it. So it's very important that, yes, the Torah and the rest of the books of the Bible can be interpreted several ways. At least, our rabbis taught that the Torah can be interpreted 70 ways. So you have 70 different interpretations of just the 5 books, and maybe several different interpretations of the rest of the books. But the point being that it's not about, there are literal interpretations, and there are symbolic interpretations, or we call shadows, and we call teachings and types, and those kind of things. They are in the Torah, and then the rest of the books of the Bible as well. So with that in mind, I wanted to make sure that you understand that at no point did I ever state that Moses didn't exist as a character. Just because Neville Goddard said so doesn't mean it's true. Just because your pastor said that Moses didn't exist doesn't mean it's true. I'm not saying that your pastor said that. I'm just saying that could be somebody out there. A pastor could be anybody. It could be Joe down the road who doesn't believe in the Bible and says these are all fictitious characters. And you don't have to defend it. Nobody's asking you to defend it. But there may come a point where you may actually stand up and say, no, these people existed and they are my forefathers. So if, for instance, these characters didn't exist, then who are you? Isn't that $1 million question? I was talking to somebody and I said, if these characters don't exist, who the hell am I? What am I doing over here? Because I actually connect to those characters. So the whole point was that if they don't exist, I don't exist. But because I exist, they also exist. Seemingly, I have a literal history. I don't know about the rest of the people in the room, but I do have a literal history that goes back to Iran, Persian Empire. So at least in my family, we have a documented history of who we are. So, and I met somebody else, and Rabbi Kefa knows the person as well. His name's Abraham. He actually came from Baghdad in Iraq. 2,000 years ago, 12 families left Baghdad after the destruction of the temple, and they arrived in what was then India. And Rabbi Kefa spoken to that man. Now this man alleges that he came from the tribe of Judah. So my point is this, right? Well, is he a figment of my imagination as well? And is he also a fictitious character? My point is this, that be very careful that the West has ideas, and the Western ideas are flawed at the onset, and that's why the West is always falling apart at the seams. The whole reason for them falling apart is because of the lies they believe. They believe these lies, and then they rely on these lies, and then these lies become their truth. Remember, anything that you believe as fact will become your truth. There was a time, Hitler basically taught that, the German nation was a superior nation, and that they needed to get rid of the Jews, and they needed to quash them for whatever, financial and other reasons that Hitler didn't like. And he created his Nazi party. He then made that as a fact. He believed it so much that he taught it as a truth. Other people believed it, from the youngest to the oldest, they believed it. Many Germans fell into that, and that then resulted in a terrible Holocaust, where you read about it, that 6 million Jews were killed. Now, of course, there were survivors, and those survivors came back to tell the tale. Today when people say, oh, it never happened, there are people who still survived it, and they tell the tale about it, and it's sobering. I went to Israel, many years back. When I say many years, it wasn't that many years. It was about 2014 I went over there. I think I was also there 2016. 2016 I was in Israel, and I went to the museum. I actually did visit the Holocaust Museum, and I heard testimonies, saw pictures, stories of people that had endured through that time period when Hitler was active with his forces. Now Hitler was very good. Hitler knew that how to rouse the people, and he used one cause against one people to rouse the people against them, and he was pretty much successful. It just shows you that when you believe in something, that you can turn a lie into a fact and believe it to be true. Same way, if we go a little bit further back into the medieval times, England at one point believed that the Jews started the plague that killed many people in London. And of course the Jews didn't start it. The Jews were simply, at the time, were more methodical in their hand washing ceremony and in their ritual washing ceremonies, that they kept themselves clean. And because they kept themselves clean, they did not acquire the disease. Today, what do they tell you today with coronavirus? They tell you, wash your hands. They tell you, use antiseptic, use sterilizers and things like disinfectants to keep yourselves clean. Isn't that what the Torah speaks about? When Torah used to speak about washing your hands and washing your feet, and it talked about doing this as a ritual wash, people laughed about that. Many Gentiles in the nations laughed about that and said, "What stupid people! Oh, look at them! They're washing their hands all the time, and they are washing their feet all the time." And they laughed today at Muslims as well. Muslims also do their wuzu. They basically wash their hands and their feet before they pray. Jews also wash their hands and feet before they pray. So today this is like a laugh and a joke for many Westerners. But unfortunately, again I say, ignorance is not the answer. Today the same Western doctors and Western presidents and prime ministers are teaching their people to wash their hands and keep themselves, sterilized, and use antiseptic and a preventative measure from this so-called plague. And plague it is. Here is my analysis of what I say is happening today. A lot of people believe in their stupid, unwarranted conspiracy theories, and I don't teach those and I don't follow those. Here is what I believe to be the case, and you can agree or you can disagree. When injustice rises up so much that the people who are supposed to manage justice, they don't manage it, and injustices are injustice is committed, injustice is committed everywhere, then what happens is God sends a plague. And God sends a plague as a answer to people correcting themselves on this earth. It's nothing to do with conspiracy theory. It's nothing to do with punishment. It's actually everything to do with justice. When we as a people, wherever we live in different countries, when we don't do justice and the innocent suffer, then God sends a plague. And the plague can be in any shape or form. He can send a destruction. He can send a hurricane. He can send a wind. He can send a tornado. He can send a earthquake. These are the ways that nature, we call it nature, but actually behind there is angels and God. Behind these things, what most people call nature is usually a supreme power that we know is God. And that supreme power is what metes out justice. The idea is not to make people suffer. See, most people think, it's a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's actually a way of God to remind us that what is our role on this earth. We are reminded of our roles on the earth and how we are to pursue justice. It's very important that we understand that point. Very, very important you understand that point. And many people, we do not understand that point. And the reason they do not understand that point, it creates suffering for many other people. And not because God is sitting over there and likes to make people suffer, or likes to make people unhappy, or likes to punish people. This is completely opposite of what's actually happening. God wants people to be prosperous. God wants people to be blessed. God wants justice on this earth. And when we deny justice, when we do not fight for justice, and when we do not give justice, when we are in high places and we don't do those things, that is when God has to do the action of sending something like this plague that we are seeing. Now you might say, well, if God has sent this plague, then many people are going to die. And then you might say that, why are people dying? Why are the innocents dying? Yes, Rabbi Kefa. Early Americans, Rabbi Kefa saying that early Americans believed that people of color were less valued than a cow, and they made it law, all to make their slavery humane in their eyes. Absolutely, that's true. And that obviously now everybody's realizing that that is not the case. But see, my point is this, that I'm answering the question is, why does people today think that innocents suffer and die, and many people complain and say, well, if God is sending it because justice hasn't been done, then why are the innocent dying? This is a big question. Why do the innocents die? And philosophers look at this point, and philosophers make all sorts of theories. And there are several books on philosophy that you can pick up and read. But each person gives their opinion on this matter. But it's very simple actually, because look at it this way. You see, this is where this was a dispute between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Sadducees are the priesthood. They are my camp. And the Pharisees are the other camp. They're a mixture of Judah and maybe Benjamin, maybe some other tribes. They're like teachers and rabbis. The priesthood believed that there is no such thing as punishment. And I still believe that today, by the way. I'm no different from those Sadducees. I believe the same as my ancestors did. There is no such thing as punishment. There is only the love of God, which allows people to either to prosper or to suffer based on their own belief systems. So, for instance, God doesn't send a plague because God wants to kill people, because God created these people. So when justice is not done on the earth, then supernaturally something happens to correct, to bring people into line, to do that. And this is kind of interesting, because the idea is this. The idea is this, that we follow and pursue it. Justice, of course. And we're not talking about justice on a bigger scale, like, like Chinese people, some Chinese government officials, maybe, British made it law. This happened a couple of days back. The British made it law that China is committing genocide in Xinjiang province and killing Muslims, eager Muslims, and they are putting them in concentration camps. They're trying to change their religion and ideology, I guess, from what they are to, I don't know, Chinese or communist maybe. And some of these Chinese eager Muslims, they escaped to Turkey, and some escaped to Europe. And so, I think it was 2 days ago, the British made it law that China is committing genocide, and that they're going to do something about it, maybe some sanctions or something else. Also America, the same voices have been echoed in America as well by the president here, Joe Biden, and others, that China is committing genocide, and they also wanted to follow it up as well. Then you may have heard of, several European nations, including America, kicking out Russian diplomats. So there was a lot of Russian diplomats being removed from countries, and again I think it was to do with, they are spies and things like that. Those are all the political front scenes that are happening today in our world. So my point that I'll bring to you is very simple. I heard a little speech of a Muslim cleric, and the Muslim cleric said, people in the West call these things by different names. They might call them demons, they might call them angels. And he basically described that they have these, call it demons or angels, they call them jinns. They say these are jinns, and jinns are like, they can be malevolent and they can be benevolent. There are two types. He was describing them, that they're malevolent or benevolent. And he said that they are center for the Asian region. This is something he mentioned, which was very interesting. He said the center for the Asian continent, I should say, not just region, continent, he said, is Himalayan mountains in Pakistan. And he said, but that's not the center of the world. He said, that's not the center for the world. He said, of course, each continent, like North America, Europe, each continent has a center where these beings live. And the man asked him, he said, because, he kind of found it a little funny, but he was religious as well himself, but he was still trying to be serious about it. And he said, well, do these people get married? These beings that we don't see, do they get married? And he said, yes, they get married. And he said, do they have children? He said, yes, they have children. He said, do they travel like we do? Do they work like we do? He said, yes. He said, they have borders and they work just like we do. And here's the interesting part. Oh, absolutely, Olivia, you can. And this is true. This is actually true. Why? Because the Bible speaks about it as well. The Bible also says that at Jacob's time, that Jacob saw these angelic beings when he was praying. And it also speaks about when the prophet Daniel was praying. It speaks about prophet Daniel was visited by the angel. And the angel said that I was hindered for 21 days. I couldn't come to you because other powers prevented me. So meaning that the Muslims actually are not wrong of their belief. The belief stems from the Torah. And majority of the Muslim world, they believe in the Torah. They may have problems with New Testament. The idea of Jesus dying, being crucified and killed, they do have a problem with that. But they actually believe in these powers. And I think they're right. And Rabbi Kefa is asking that how do Muslims believe in hell like the West? They do. Yeah, they do. And I believe this is where they are entirely wrong. Because you see, these teachings, they don't stem from the West. Western teachings don't stem from the West. They stem from the East. See, these beliefs of hell and heaven and hell, they originated in the East. And they originated with some teachers of the Bible. You're going to find this really funny. Because these teachings originated with rabbis. And rabbis are the guilty party. Let's not point fingers at Gentiles. Rabbis are the guilty party for this. Because rabbis were teaching that there's a heaven and hell and there's justice and punishment. But the priesthood, you will not find a priesthood at any time standing with the rabbi and saying, yeah, there is punishment and there is, hell and heaven. No priest in the ancient times stood with any Pharisee and said, we agree with you. You will not find that. And that's where the collision was. The Sadducees were a higher class of people. They were people of knowledge. They were people of means. They were rich, affluent people. So they did not care about these stupid little beliefs of heaven and hell. They actually followed the principles that exactly I'm outlining to you today. How do you think they became rich? How do you think they became affluent? Because they were naturally blessed by God. They were what you might today call the master manifestors. They were master manifestors. Today you get this label, master manifestor. Very few people can do that, but the priests were master manifestors. They were very affluent, very well off, and they had a lot of influence with Gentiles as well as amongst their own. And they refused to believe in heaven and hell. They said, no, there is no heaven, and there is no hell, and there is no punishment. That they focused on punishment. They said there's no punishment. Because the idea that you are a sinner, let's take the Christian idea. The Christian idea that you are a sinner and you will be punished after your life is preposterous, to say the least. Absolutely preposterous. Why? Because God's going to wait for you to die and then punish you? Come on, let's think about it. Just think about that for a minute. Does God who created you, and you are part of God, you are also created from that spirit. Can spirit punish spirit? And this is another philosophical question that I read about. I read many books on this philosophical question about punishment and justice and God punishing the guilty and all that. Actually, God doesn't do that. God allows you to be punished by your own belief system. So, in other words, God doesn't have to come down here to punish you. You will punish yourself. And this is something that even was echoed by the Muslim prophet. The Muslim prophet also echoed the same sentiment, that when nations don't do justice and evil people rise up and won't allow justice to happen, then God will send the plagues. This is actually a belief in Islam, because the Muslim prophet agreed with it. And who do you think the Muslim prophet sat with? Think about Saudi Arabia and the people that lived there. These were all people that sat and talked about Torah in their lives, because there were a lot of Jews around there, Arab Jews. So they spoke about Torah all the time. They always had discussions. Not debates like in the West where you kind of sit, you go to a podium and you debate. Not like that. They sat in like groups of people and they discussed the afterlife, they discussed this life, and they discussed the merits of the Torah, they discussed other things. So this is something ingrained, enshrined, and the idea of heaven and hell actually stemmed from the Persian Empire. And guess who was in the Persian Empire? Jews, of course, right? Jews were in the Persian Empire. And who do you think started to teach those things? because the Persians, in their belief system, they have a belief system, it's called, there's a name for it. They do a bit of fire worship, and in their worship they believe that there's a bridge, that you can't see. You die, you see it. They say you're asked to cross a bridge, and if you're a righteous person, you will cross the bridge. If you're an unrighteous person, you fall off the bridge and you fall into some kind of lava. So that's the Iranian, the ancient Persian belief, and our people lived in those belief systems. Israelites, Israel, the children of Israel lived in Egypt, where certain belief systems were ripe, and then they lived in Iran, Persia, and those systems were ripe. And the Islamic knowledge and the Torah knowledge combined together, basically the beliefs were mingled. So this is where you get your heaven and hell. It was a mingling of different systems. And Torah never said there's a heaven and there's a hell. Torah simply spoke about justice and justice to be done. Whereas the other religions around at the time, they went a little further. Christianity, started to become predominant in the 1st century, 2nd, 3rd centuries. And then we had the Zoroastrianism. Yeah, that's the belief system of the Iranians. Zoroastrianism was prominent. And then Mithraism, which also came from Iran, was prominent. The resurrection of the dead, the dying of the child, the virgin, all that was prominent in the Mithraism. And so these belief systems produce your heaven and hell. But today you don't need to have a heaven and hell, you produce it yourself. It's very simple, you produce it. You can either live in heaven, paradise, or you can live in hell. And your hell is right here on this earth. It's right here. And this is something that I had a huge problem with when I was younger. I'm still young, but when I was younger, when I was 18 years old, I had a huge problem with the idea of a heaven and a hell. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand it at the time, and I refused to believe it. Even then I refused to believe it. By the way, think about it. So this is basically, I've wrestled with that concept and now come to the understanding that actually the whole thing is damn stupid and doesn't exist. It's just people created it. And so the idea that we have to all be punished is wrong. It's totally wrong. And here is the interesting bit. The interesting bit is this, that if we look at if we live with that perspective that you're going to be punished, what state of mind are you in? Constantly, like continuously. What is your state of mind? If all you believe for the day of, exactly, Kefa, fear. Fear is a state of mind. Now I know certain people who were close to me, and I was talking about those people, this morning as well. 4 of those people died with this so-called plague. But what was the predominant factor in those people's lives? The 2 of the people I knew closely, and 2 I didn't know as close. The 2 of the people that I knew closely, the first factor that was in their mind was fear. They feared the disease. They feared becoming ill. And at one point I told them that don't fear the disease, otherwise the fear will kill you. Now maybe regret speaking those words. Those people are dead now, because they feared the disease, and the disease overtook them. Before you know it, they became infected, and before you know it, it didn't even last 2 weeks. 2 weeks later they are dead. So again, I re-emphasize my point. What do you live in? And it's very important to understand it from a Torah point of view. It says in chapter 16 of Torah, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, when they drew near before Yahweh and died. And Yahweh said to Moshe, speak to Aaron your brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place, within the veil before the lid of atonement that was upon the ark. Now I'm just going to stop there a minute. You see, we can take this in another interpretation. And the another interpretation is this, that you cannot constantly keep, pounding at God give me, give me, give me, give me. You can't keep doing that. That's why God said, do not come at all times before me. Because when you are visualizing, when you're imagining, when you're reading your statements, your affirmations, this is why you need a period of detachment. And God gave the period of detachment. He said, don't continuously come and pound your head against the wall, the door. God, give me this, God, give me this, God, give me this. And some people do that. Some Christians do that. Maybe some others do that too. And some people fail in their manifestations because they continuously don't detach. They don't give it a rest. So God told Aaron that don't do that. He said don't do that. And then the sacrifices that were asked to Aaron at the time and his sons, it said that then shall Aaron come into the holy place with a young bullock for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. The idea of these sacrifices wasn't so much as most people teach and believe that, oh, they committed some real, wicked thing. Almost like what Job describes. Remember, Job says that I was giving offerings because my children might do something wrong. So he constantly every week gave offerings. He thought that his children might do something wrong, and he thought that that'll prevent them from, becoming struck by something. Okay, Devora 27, very good question. You make the question, in biblical days, wasn't an eye for an eye, cutting of fingers and tongues, as well as stoning, all forms of punishment while a person is living, not after death? Our words and deeds guide our lives. No, not entirely, because there was no such thing as plucking out an eye. That's a phrase. It's a phrase for justice. And there was no cutting of fingers either. Nobody ever cut anybody's finger. And nobody ever cut anybody's tongue. There's no such Torah law. And when Torah law speaks about eye for eye, it's speaking about measured justice. That's all it's saying. It's not saying you take somebody's eye out. Because when you, and the British understood that very well, and probably Americans as well. The British understood it because they said, when you wrong somebody and you take them to court and you say that person wronged me and because of him I received such and such injury, then the judge sits there and says, you know what, you need to have compensation, and I'm going to give you $2 million because that person broke your finger or something else. And the British understood that law, and by the way, it was taken from the Bible, that law was measured justice. Nobody's eye ever came out. You didn't see Israelites walking around with patches on their eyes. Never happened. So this is why it is a misunderstanding of people's belief systems, or trying to make it into something real when it's not. We never cut anybody's hand off. We never cut anybody's fingers, and we didn't take anybody's eye out either. So Rabbi Kefa saying that Job actually did more harm than good to his children by being in fear over harm of his children. He actually manifested it. Absolutely, certainly did. Yeah, that's the whole idea. That is what that story about Job teaches us. That when you constantly live in fear, you will manifest it. So, it's kind of interesting where we are right now. And here is what I ask people to do. Several years ago, I said to people, and I'm talking about going back maybe 17, 18 years, when we started the war in Afghanistan. I used to talk to people on the phone from England, in America, all the time. People used to phone me for advice, for prayers, for other things. And I used to speak to mothers, wives of soldiers, mothers of, servicemen. And I used to advise them to, they used to ask me to pray for them, and I did. I used to advise them also that they need to pray for their loved ones. Off the scene. I used to tell them that every day take time out, even 5 minutes, and pray for your loved ones for protection. Because if you do that, then you will raise their chances of survival and successful return back to you whole, not in a body bag. And I remember succinctly that those mothers and those wives that prayed for their husbands and sons, they returned back safely. And those that didn't pray, they died. This is why prayer when directed. When prayer is directed, it is much more effective than when it's scattered. What's the difference between scattered and directed prayer? Directed prayer is when you sit, you sit and you calm your mind down. It's like, closing your closet. You calm your mind down, and you see your son or daughter, whoever is a serviceman or woman, you see them whole, and you see them with you. Return means that you're doing an imaginative act. In that imaginative act, you see your son or daughter with you, safely returned. And you do that daily. And you may take a break, which you should. You may take a break, and you do that most days when they are out on service. And then you find that next minute you find that 1 year later, or 2 years later, or 5 years later, that person has returned safely. That is effective prayer. Effective prayer is not sitting there and Jesus help me and Jesus help me. That's not effective prayer, by the way. Effective prayer is when you sit there quietly and you pray to God. And I'm not against Jesus. You can use Jesus' name if you like, but you do the effective prayer method. And then you can close it in whoever's name you want to. You can close it in Rabbi Simon Altaf's name. And that's not a sin to do that. You can close it in a priest's name. You can close it in a prophet's name. That's not a sin. That is permitted. This is why today you see that several Jews, they go to their teachers' graves. Because when they pray, they close it in their teacher's name. They ask their teachers for help. And that's perfectly fine as well. So because what you're trying to do, you're trying to manifest a righteous desire. And trying to bring somebody back is a righteous desire. Bring your father back, bring your son back, or bring your daughter back from a warring zone is a righteous desire. And we can now apply it to another thing. We can apply it to acquiring a house, or maybe a sum of money, or maybe a righteous relationship. These are all righteous desires. So the idea that we, the people of Israel, did sacrifices because there was some mumbo jumbo is not true. We did the sacrifices for the righteous desire of our people. So when Aaron was asked to do the sacrifice of a bull for sin offering and a ram for burnt offering, the idea was not that because the entire people of Israel were sinners. Sinners in the sense of Christian thinking. Like they were guilty of some massive, murder or some kind of theft. The whole reason for Aaron to do that and his sons was so that Israelites have a clear path to success. So the bull offering to God, which was, done, these things were done. They are not allegorical. They were done. And the reason was because a bull is very expensive in price. Kefa can tell you the price of a Texas bull. Probably about $5,000 to $6,000, maybe even more, $1,000. The idea was that killing the animal, taking the blood and spilling it on the altar, and God said to spill it on the north side of the altar. So spilling on the altar, the idea was that now all Israelites have access to God and manifestation, and of their desires will occur quicker. And it wasn't to do with sin. Sin simply meant missing the mark. And missing the mark meant that you're not getting your desire. You're trying to get a job, you're trying to get a good crop, you're trying to get rain, and it's not happening. So when the priest did that, it opened the way for those things to happen. Because the priests, you can see them as master manifestors. And they could make it happen straight away. Because they had access to God. Because God had said to the priests, remember what God said to the priesthood. He said, the rest of the Israelites, they can have their piece of land. And they can run with their mule and their 40 acres of land. But you have me. Meaning, we have access to God all the time. We can manifest instantly like this. That's where the priesthood came in. That is why the Sadducees did not agree with punishment. They said there's no such thing. So then you might ask, well, what of the evil people in the world? Well, remember, God also said that He creates evil and He creates good. Well, if God is creating evil and good, then evil has a purpose. And evil's purpose is always related to the good. Without the evil, you will never know what is good. Rabbi Kefa is saying that there are registered longhorns, which means their bloodlines have carefully curated and logged. Today, the average lot sells for just under $4,500, with the top cattle bringing in over $10,000 a piece. According to Rabbi Kefa, Texas longhorns can fetch up to $10,000 a piece. I can agree with that. That's a reasonable price for a longhorn. So the idea of sacrificing or putting a bull down is only not because some poor Israelite committed a sin. It's not that. It's so that it opens a way for them to become master manifestors. They will never become master. By the way, let me tell you something else. They will never become master manifestors. Why? Because that what I call gift. That gift was only given to the priesthood. That wasn't given to anybody else. They couldn't do that. But they could manifest great things in their life. But they could not become master manifestors. That role only belonged to the priesthood. And I'm kind of like separating the two, so you understand it. So when this man came to me, about 15 years ago, this man came to me and said to me, tomorrow is my test. Tomorrow I'm going to go do driving test, and I've already failed 6 times. Rabbi, can you pray for me? I said, tomorrow you shall pass. That's master manifestation, by the way. My words are enough. When I gave him those words that you're going to pass tomorrow morning in England, and these people that are in this room that are British can testify, it is not easy to pass a British test. British driving test is very difficult. American test retrospectively is much easier, because automatic cars, by the way. But the British test, they want you to do these manual cars. Then they want you to continuously look at your mirror, keep looking at your mirror, keep doing this acting of looking in your mirror and side mirrors. And if you miss something, then they make you do a corner reverse and a 3-point turn and so many other things, and emergency brake. And if you do one thing wrong, boom, you failed your test. So this man failed his test 6 times. He came to me, he said, Rabbi, I failed my test 6 times, and tomorrow is the 7th. I don't want to make it number 7. Please pray for me. I said, tomorrow you will pass your test. Tomorrow. And the next morning he passed his test, and he phoned me. He said, thank you very much for what you said yesterday for me. I passed my test today. Now how do I get my house? So he had another one for me to fulfill for him, which also I fulfilled for him. So my point is, how did I do it? Because as I told you, the priesthood are master manifestors. They already have it as a gift. We don't have to, keep continuously, yabba dabba do every day. We don't have to do that. Our words are enough. Our words are enough. What we say is God's word. And that's exactly what God says in the Torah. The word that the Kohen speaks, who's in the gate, he speaks my word. What he shall say, you shall do. And if you don't do it, you'll be cut off from the tribes of Israel. Now these are words in the Torah, by the way. So you have to understand that we do not just practice mumbo jumbo. We practice tried and tested things in our Torah, in our books, 5 books. So I do not stand here and tell you that Moses was a figment of somebody's imagination. And I don't sit here and tell you that Abraham never existed. I do not follow lies, by the way. I follow truths and facts that have been tested over time and time again. And even if I told you, and heaven forbid it will never happen, even if I said to you that Abraham didn't exist, tomorrow a rock will turn up and say Abraham existed. Then a stone will turn up and say Moses existed. Can I now deny the stone and the rock? No, I can't. So why would I teach an untruth? I would never teach an untruth for that very reason. Because it is not meant to be taught like that. You are meant to follow the tried and tested truths of the Torah, and that's where your life will be. And the whole idea of the priesthood was to help the people those that were covenanted. Remember, you are covenanted people. If you or any of you is parts of the tribes of Israel, and it doesn't matter if you don't know who who your tribe is, it doesn't matter, that's irrelevant. The point is, if you belong to the tribes of Israel, you have an inkling of it, then you are a covenant people already. And those covenant people have certain principles given to them. And those principles are true down throughout the ages. Now, I was reading and listening to this audio books, and one of the statements that was made in the book was that scientists know that the body is recreated in 11 months. In other words, you can recreate your entire body, a new body, in 11 months, because your cells are constantly dying and regenerating new ones, and they are splitting, because we are multicellular organism, and so your cells are continuously renewing. So I looked at my pictures 5 years ago, and I looked at myself today in the mirror, and I said, you know what, I look better than I did back then. I look 10 times better. Because when I was in England, running, to catch trains, park my car in the car park, then run to catch a train to London, then catch the underground metro lines, which are called tube over there, I had a very hectic lifestyle through that rush hour. There, 2 hours there and 2 hours back every day, 4 hours of journey time. And I looked at myself in the picture and I was like, I look kind of stressed out. I wasn't stressed out particularly, but I looked in my pictures like I was stressed out, but I never took stress, but I kind of looked kind of down in my picture. And I compared my picture to my present picture, and I looked totally different. And I was like, wow, I look better now than I did back then. And that was about 6 years ago. So I said, what gives? And I realized what gives is how you feel. That's what gives. And then when I heard this statement, and I said, yep, this statement is true, that your body creates itself entirely new in 11 months. Now, if you build pain in your body or disease, it will show itself in 11 months as well. Meaning that if you constantly feared, if you fear that you're going to get cancer or you're going to get some disease, then you're going to build that into your cells and it's going to appear in 11 months. So what should you be doing? You should, of course, be building health and wealth, of course, and not, a disease and a fear. So what is it, we speak about this, and I speak about this all the time. I constantly speak about these two people. One goes to university, and both of them go to university, and one becomes a billionaire and the other one becomes a zero-aire. He gets nothing in his life. Why? And I've given you the reasons, and I was thinking about it today, and I want to give you another reason today. If you sat in a taxi today, and you said to the driver, take me to Houston, and then a minute later, you said to the taxi driver, no, I don't want to go to Houston, I want to go to San Antonio. And then 5 minutes later, you said to him, no, I don't want to go to San Antonio, I want to go to Corpus Christi. Then what does that reveal? That reveals an indecision mind. Your mind, your brain cannot make a decision. 1 minute you're in Houston, next minute you're in San Antonio, and the third you're in Corpus Christi. Means that you do not have a stable decision-making power. And your whole life, meaning that your desire, your successes are related to your decision, meaning a firm decision. You can't say to me 1 minute, Rabbi, I'd like to have $5,000. And then 10 minutes later you say to me, no, I think let's make it 15. Then 20 minutes later you say, no, let's make it 50,000. See, you got to have one mind. You got to have one mind. You can have stages of that one mind. The one mind can say, first I'm going to get my $50,000. Then I'm going to make the jump to $250,000. And after that, I'm going to go straight to $1 million. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a decision mind. That's a stable mind. Because you set yourself goals. Your first goal is 50. Then your next goal is 250. Then your goal is perhaps $1 million. that's okay. But if your goal says 1 minute you're 5,000, next minute you're 10, then you're unsure and you're like, well, I don't know if 10 is good enough, maybe I should come back to 7. So that's not a decision mind, that's not a stable mind. So it is very important for you to make a decision. And in our society today, the focus is always on willpower. You may have heard of this, in advertising, losing weight, going to the gym and other things. They always talk about willpower. But I will tell you one thing, willpower is the worst mistake you will ever make. Willpower doesn't last. Willpower might be here today and tomorrow it's gone. It's flown away with the birds. So the only thing that lasts is discipline. Yael is good question. What if you're asking for different amounts for different tasks? That is okay. See, a decision mind, a stable mind will have, like for instance, you might say that I need $50,000 for a deposit. You might say, but I need another 50,000 for a car. So then you say, first I want the 50, my deposit money, then I want the other 50 for my car, so let's make it 100,000. So you're asking 100,000, you might be asking for it in 2 amounts, or maybe you ask for it in 3 amounts. That is okay, that is not indecision. Indecision is when you first say, I'd like to have $5,000, I want to maybe go shopping. And then next minute you think, maybe 5,000 is not enough, maybe I'll go for 10,000. You say 10,000. And then 3 minutes later you're like, no, 10,000 is too much, I'll come back to 6,000. Then no, I'll go for 7. You constantly back and forth. That's indecision. If you said to the taxi driver, take me to Houston, then take me to San Antonio, because from Houston to San Antonio is another 3 hours drive, by the way. I've done it, so I know what the drive times are. Houston to San Antonio is 3 hours, and from San Antonio to Corpus Christi, which Rabbi Kefa has done it, he can tell you the number of hours, because his father lives there. So that I think is about another 3 hours maybe. So you're talking about, indecision with a taxi, and the taxi man's going to say, so there you go, it's about 2.5 hours. So it's pretty close at 3 hours. If you're driving like me at 60, you probably take 3 hours. So my point is this, that indecision is what stops your manifestation from occurring. You must make a firm decision, and you must be disciplined, not willpower. Willpower says, I'm going to go for a 3-mile jog today, but I'm going to do it on my willpower. So I go for a 3-mile jog today, and tomorrow I'm sleeping and I say, I don't feel like getting up today, I'm not going to go for a jog. That's willpower, by the way. But discipline is when you say you're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock. By the way, I used to get up at 3 o'clock in England. So let me tell you that. Another interesting story. I used to get up at 3 o'clock every day, and I used to go for a 10-mile run. 4 o'clock I was on the road for a 10-mile run. And then I reduced it down to 6. I started with 10 miles, and I thought, well, it takes a long time to do 10. I'll do 6 miles. And I used to do 6-mile run every day. Doesn't matter what weather. England is petty weather in England. It's like always raining. And in the morning, it's cold, it's drizzly, it's rain. So I bought a long overcoat. I bought a cap, a woolen cap. I bought woolen gloves. And I used to put all of those on, my muffler, my cap, my long coat, my boots. And I used to go for my 6-mile run. Every morning on the trot. Disciplined run. I didn't care if it was sunshine, it was snow, I don't care what the weather was. I got up every day in the morning and I went for my run. That was discipline, not willpower. Willpower will not get you 5 minutes in life. But discipline, this is why soldiers, you look at the army, soldiers make good discipline. Hence why you attend army, you go to, maybe Boy Scouts, or maybe you go join the territorial army or the reserves. Why? Because you want to learn to be disciplined. And if you're disciplined, then you can achieve a lot in your life. So all of you must learn discipline. Now, if you're disciplined enough and you say to yourself, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock, then that's your disciplined hour. Then that's what you do every day. You get up at 7 o'clock in the morning because you've decided that that's the time you're going to get up before you go to your job or before you do something else, and you do that. I'm not saying that you have to do it at 3 o'clock. I'm saying that if you made a decision that your ideal time to get up is 7, then that's what you do. But you stick to 7. You don't want one day you say, tomorrow I'll get up at 7. Then a day later you say, no, I think I should get up at 8. And then a day later at 9. Then maybe 10. Then you're not disciplined. You're all over the place. So your discipline says that I'll get up at such and such time, and this is my time that I'm going to get up every day. So if you decided you're going to get up at 5, then 5 it is every day. That's discipline, by the way. Discipline will make you get up no matter what the weather. But willpower will only make you get up 2 days, and the third day you're saying you're sleeping in, snoring away because you don't care now. So you have to decide for your life what you want. And that, by the way, is disciplined approach. And I always encourage a disciplined approach. Never to be in an indecision state. Fear can kill you, as I already illustrated the point to you. Real life, that 4 people that I knew, 2 absolutely feared the disease and they died. And they died before the other 2. So out of those, only 3 people survived out of those group of people that were in the hospital. So why? Because the other 3 people did not fear. They don't even have an inkling of fear in their lives. Now here's the other interesting thing. If I told you to walk on a plank of wood, on the floor, on the ground, you'll be like, yeah, no problem, I'll do it right now. And you do it. But if I now told you that that plank is between 2 buildings that are maybe about 2,000 foot height, then will you walk the plank? And then the first thing that you're going to get is fear. What if I fall? Look down, my goodness, it's such a big drop. So what stops you from walking on that same plank at a height is your fear. Now if you can get over your fear, like if you don't have fear, you can walk the plank at a height as well. It's no different. So the factor that removes you from winning, and I don't say this lightly, I say it very seriously, what makes you win is your attitude of a winner, not a loser. But if your attitude is fear, then you're already a loser, because you live in fear. And that's where we as a priest came in. We came in the tribes of Israel to encourage our people to do the right things, the right offerings before God, so that our people will have free access to blessings. Because blessings were commanded on them. And we pronounce them on our people. And we pronounce them every week, like every Shabbat. We pronounce a blessing on our people. It doesn't mean that the people have to be there. You didn't see all of Israel gathered outside the temple or in the temple. You didn't see that every week. But the priesthood stood there and pronounced a blessing, nevertheless, on the people. And the effect of that was that our people prospered all over the place. Wherever they were, they prospered. They had good rain, they had good crops, they had health, they had wealth, and they prospered in the nations. So today is the same story is today also true. That when we stand and petition for our people, that they prosper everywhere. And the idea is 100% true and 100% accurate. Rather than live in the fear of heaven and hell, which side you're going to go to, how about you live in the joy of happiness of today, and tomorrow being a greater tomorrow, because you are you're going to be a great manifester. You're going to manifest great things in your life. Why not live in that kind of atmosphere? Because if you do, then you will do well in your life. If you don't, then you're only your worst enemy. So first of all, remove the fear, because Job said, that which I feared overcame me. So if you fear, you already reduce your chances of winning. The other thing that you can do worse for yourself, and these are the words that I will never ever use, and I advise you never to use them again, or at least if you use them, then retract, step back and change your words. Don't ever use the word I hope, and don't ever use the word I can't. Those 2 words are killers of your manifestations. When you say, I hope to be a millionaire someday, you already killed your manifestation right there. You already said that you're never going to make it, because hope means you already lost. But when you say, I'm definitely a millionaire, you already made it. It's a different mindset. So you got to come into that mindset of definite, not hope, because hope doesn't work. And you don't read in the Bible wherever it says, oh, you hopefully will become a good man one day. Hopefully you will become rich one day. Hopefully you will do well. No, you never hear that statement. But you have several other statements, and one of those statements is this, because hope is always a statement of failure, and so is the can't. These are statements of failure. But in Deuteronomy, in the 5th book of Moses, verse 18, it says, but you shall remember Yahweh your power, or you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He that gives you power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant which He swore unto your fathers, as it is this day. What does God say here? God says that I give you the power to get wealth. What is that power? Well, that power comes through the priesthood that stand there praying for you to be successful. And then you are diligently doing that which you require, and you get the blessings from God. And then it says, and then in Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 6, keep therefore, guard therefore, and do them. For this is your wisdom, and this is your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear these statutes and judgments, and say, surely this is a great nation, is a wise and understanding people. Now, when you open the Bible, and if we go to Deuteronomy 4, and these exact words, by the way, if I go to the book of Deuteronomy, let me pull it up. Devarim chapter 4 verse 6, and you shall guard them. This is from the Hidden Truths or the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. And you shall guard them and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. By the way, this is what we call a hukh. A hukh, okay? What's a hukh? A hukh, interestingly, I was looking at it yesterday, and I was like, this is a kind of very interesting and very, knowledge thing within this is this. That because this is a hukh, let me go back to the verses. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 6. Let me pull it up. And the word that he uses, what it says, one word before this, verse 5. It says, behold, I have taught you statutes. Now the word for statutes in the Hebrew is a hukh. Hukh, it's a hukh is a chet and a kaf. Those are the two that make up the hukh. Now, a hukh, very few people understand what a hukh is, because many people didn't understand that they say judgments are like mishpat, they're like decisions or things that God decided that we should be following for our greater good. But then God gave us hukh, and nobody really explained hukh, because they're like, what is a hukh? What does it, and why did God give it? And nobody really quite understood the hukh idea, because they didn't understand what a hukh is. But a hukh basically, by the way, is a task. I'll explain to you today what a hukh is. A hukh is a task, and God has given you a task to do. A task could be, you sit there. Last week I gave you 3 or 4 affirmations, and I said you must do them every day. That's a task. That's a hukh, by the way. I gave you a hukh last week. That's what we call a statute in the English language. So if you do the statutes, a hukh, you will become a wise people. But you must do it, right? You're not going to get there without not doing it. So the Hebrew word for a statute is a hukh, and the judgment for a Hebrew word for judgment is mishpat. And then it says that whatever land, it talks about the land where you go, and then it says that if you do it, then this will be your wisdom. And the wisdom, as you know, is Chokhmah. The Holy Spirit is called Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. Im Chokhmah. And your understanding, Bina, on the sight of the nations. And Ain is a sight, like the eyes. And then it talks about, again it says this is a statutes. And it says, surely, this great nation, and it uses the word Goy, by the way, Goy Gadol. This great nation is a wise, Huchim. Wise is Huchim over here. Chachim, people, and understanding. Again the word Bina is used over here. And Ami for the people. So what does that teach you? It's teaching you that the Huch that you do, the task that you do, makes you great people, makes you wise people. So you must do the task in order to become there. And then it uses those two attributes from the Sephirot tree, which has 10 attributes of God. It gives you 2 of those attributes, one Hukhmah, one Bina. And it says if you use those 2 attributes, you will be a great, wise and understanding nation. Goy Gadol. You know, Goy is always used in the Bible for Gentile nations. So there is an idea there. There is an idea that we will live in the Gentile nations. So this ideology that some of you follow, that, oh, I've got to be in Israel and I've got to be outside the Wailing Wall and, you know, I'm going to die otherwise. This is a totally BS idea. This is not true. Wherever God has placed you in the world today, and that could be anywhere in the world, that's where God is going to give you wisdom. He's going to give you blessings. He's going to give you honor. But the honor and the blessings are only going to come if you follow the Huch, the task. And if you don't follow the Huch, then you're just like everybody else, lining up for, waiting when your demise will come. So don't live in that situation. Don't live like that. Change your perception of who you are. Tell yourself who you are. You are a great nation. I didn't say that, but I'm telling you this today, that this is what God has said, that we are a great nation. We are a great people. So what should you be telling yourself every day? I am a great person. I'm a great man. I'm a great woman. I am great. And you should be teaching that to your children, that you are a great people. And so when your child goes to school and gets bullied, and somebody over there, some little kid tells your child that you're no good because your color's not right, or you look Chinese, or you look too Chinese, you don't look American enough, that child comes back crying, Daddy, son, so-and-so said this to me. And the dad turns around and says, son, you tell yourself that you're a great man, and you're a great nation. And don't worry about what that man said, because he's only telling you your fear or what you might be. But you remove that fear from yourself, and you tell yourself every day in the mirror, I'm a great man. I'm a great nation. And when you do that every day, how do you see how things change? Things transform. Suddenly, you are a great man. Suddenly, everything starts turning, and suddenly that kid who's trying to bully you, suddenly that kid changes, and the kid says, no, I mustn't bully this little boy because he looks different. He looks changed. Because why? Because you change your inside. Yeah, that's right. There might be a karate chop, side kick in his mouth. So, you change yourself. When you change your internals, when you tell yourself that you're a great man or a great woman, that child will no longer bully you, because he will get the message, because we are all connected, because we are from the same source energy. Because we are connected, the message will be received well and loud and clear. That just because I look Chinese doesn't mean that I am Chinese. You know what I mean? You are a Hebrew. Doesn't matter what you look like. It's kind of funny though, because you look Chinese and you can't be Hebrew. Of course you can. You can look Chinese and still be a Hebrew. So my point is this, that you must take this lightly. You mustn't take this seriously, and take that little bullying on the road, on the school as a bad thing. It might wake you up a little bit, And you might be thinking one day, you know what, it's a good thing that happened. It revealed to me who I am. Now the word shomar, in Deuteronomy 4:6, the word it uses is shomar. Shomar word is a word for guard, like a soldier. Okay? But the other important aspect to it that nobody has yet taught you, but I'm going to speak about it today, is this. The word shomar in the King James Bible is usually they use the word keep. But the shomar word narrowly, you know what it means? It means to continue to stand as a soldier and continue to say to yourself that you are great. That's what the word shomar actually means. Shomar means to do your task, and continuously do it with fervor and believe in it, that this is you and you will be that person. So next time you read about keep in the Bible, shomar, it doesn't just mean that you are just, keep something in a bucket or keep something in a suitcase. It means that you are a great person. You just need to tell yourself that to bring it out of you. Now, coming back to the words of Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth, he was a Hebrew man. he was a Jewish man. And he said this, Matthew 5:13. He said, "Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its savour, wherewith shall it be salted? It is therefore good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trampled under feet of men." So if then it talks about that you're the light of the world. It says, "Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid." And then it goes on to say in verse 16, "Let your light so shine before men," and of course women as well, "that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Okay, so meaning that you are chosen as covenant people. You are a covenant people. You are the salt and light of the earth. If you are going to believe that you are no good, that you're going to go to hell all the time, that's what your belief system is, then how's the other people going to learn? How's the other people going to see the good works in you? If they see you blessed, if they see you driving a nice car, and they see you living in a nice home, and they see you wearing nice clothes, what are the people going to think? That man or that woman over there is blessed. What do they have that I don't have? Then they're going to come and ask you, what do you do that I don't do? How is it that you're successful and I'm not? That's when you become a light to the nations. It's all about your attitude. It's all about your discipline. And the worst thing that you can do for yourself, here is the worst thing that you can do for yourself, that you can be negative about other people. So the very first thing you need to deal with in your life is negativity. Do not have any negativity of anybody. Remove it. Right now, expunge it out of your system. And just have positive. Just be nice. Just be positive. Even if somebody does wrong, be positive, because the Torah said, love your neighbor. Love your neighbor is a command from the Torah. Even that neighbor might be doing something wrong. Just because he didn't cut the grass right, we can't hate him for that. Or just because he dropped the litter on the side of the road, we can't hate him for that. We still have to love the neighbor, meaning that you must never hold animosity against other people, because that animosity it builds up a resistance. You're using that as judgment, and judgment creates blocks, and it stops your manifestations right in their track. So you got to be really, really open-minded. That's what Torah is asking you to do. Be open-minded and stop criticizing other people for what they do that you don't like. In fact, start changing yourself within so that you become the better person, and they also will become the better person as a result of that. That is the Torah command. Now when you understand that, you're well on your way to successes. You can write your first million, then you can write several million after that. But you got to make that decision today. And once you made that decision, you stick to it. And you don't change because your neighbor said, hey, I think that amount is too much. Or somebody else comes and says, I think that amount is too much. $1 million, maybe you can't be a millionaire. You see, that's the kind of talk that you want to stay away from. So if your first goal is to make $50,000 and your next goal is to make $250,000, then you're on the right track. You can do that. You can have that amount. You're not in the wrong track. So be a leader. Don't be a follower in that sense. Leader meaning that don't be like everybody else out there, following, each other like the gremlin and falling off a cliff. You are designed to be a people of success and honor, and that's what you will get. If you follow the principles of the Torah, then those are yours to take. They are there for you. And for me, my idea of my role over here is to get you on the right path so you can be successful. The rest is up to you, what you do with your lives. But you can all be successful. There's nothing stops you from becoming a millionaire or a billionaire, because there are many millionaires and billionaires out there. If they can do it, so can you. Nothing stops you from that. The only person that stops you, the only person that is your worst enemy is you. You are your worst enemy. And when you remove that you and you start to practice your discipline, that day you become a successful person. So Baruch Hashem, I'm going to pass it to Rabbi Kefa, and over to you, Rabbi Kefa. Todah for listening. Have a great day and continue to be blessed, continue to do the right thing, continue to be good, and continue to success and strength to strength. We continue in strength in the Torah, Baruch Hashem.
Todah Rabbi Hakohen, real quick before you may run off real quick. I just want to discuss a matter with you, with the family as well. And it is this: we had a question come in. I want to discuss a matter with you about our burials. I remember when we went to Israel, you and I and our posse, Baruch Hashem, that you and I, we were overlooking the plowed over pastures, and you pointed over there in that direction, one direction. You said this was the valley of the kings or something like that, where they all the burials, and we saw the stones and the burial cave-like things. My question is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you did a teaching on this a while back. But are those particular burial caves, like they talk about in the New Testament, like when the stone was rolled away for Yeshua ben Yosef, those particular burial caves were used more than one time. Is that correct? And also, when the ashes, what they would do is they would take the ashes, once just the ash, and they would collect them and put them in these, I guess you would call them like containers, or what we know as urns today. And were those urns placed actually in the cave, or were they taken with the particular individual families? So it was they were left in the cave then, right? Because I remember with Rivka, right? Didn't she take hers, and this was one of the things why her father came after her, because she actually took one of her relatives with her, and then he came and collected it because he realized and he knew the power that were that our loved ones have, even though they may have passed. And I want to talk about this because we had a question come in this week via phone, and I didn't answer the question because. And I'm really glad that I didn't answer the question. I didn't phone him back as of yet, because if he hears the lecture what you talked about, you've already asked and answered his question. But his question was this: he was like, show me proof. This is another one of them show me's, and this is why I didn't answer his question. Sometimes some questions are meant to be left silent with a response. He said, well, show me somewhere in the Torah where our ancestors, because he was reading from our Abrahamic-Faith or African-Israel Siddur, and he was like, well, show me in the Torah where our ancestors, where we can talk to our ancestors and get assistance from our ancestors by talking to our ancestors that have passed on. And so I didn't answer that question because, again, he's coming from a premise, and I wanted to really meditate, think about this before I come up with before I phone him back. He's coming with the premise of always show me this, show me that. And any of you in this room, family members, and those of you who are listening via YouTube or you listening on Facebook, if you have the show me mentality, you'll never get on with manifesting anything in your life. Because if you always need somebody to show you something, I thought you just did a lecture on the hook, the task. You know, if you're given a task in the Siddur, if you believe in the task and you carry the task out and you truly believe on what you are doing will be effective to beneficial in whatever task that you want to, succeed in, then it'll work for you. But if you keep coming from the standpoint of, well, show me. I don't know what state it is, but what state here in America is the show me state? Is it Missouri? I know we have somebody Google that real quick. One of you probably on a license plate that says the show me state. I think it's Missouri, right? Well, we don't want to sit here having to, always show me, because you can never get on with a belief system if you're always about showing me. And our ancestors was never about showing me. They were always about the do part. They were a do, and that's the difference between a show me person and a do person. A do person is going to get on with manifesting whatever he desires or she desires in their life, whilst the show me person is never going to make two heads out of a tail, because they're always concerned about, well, you're going to have to show me that in Torah where our ancestors talk to our ancestors that have passed on. And I tell you what, Mishpah, I guarantee you a majority of you in this room have been talking to relatives that have passed on. Okay, Achrei, I'll do. How many of you in this room, just real quick, how many of you, before you came back into the Torah, back into your first love, were talking to your ancestors that have passed on? Anybody? Seeking advice, help? Anybody? Just put up a capital A. If you were doing that even before Torah, you would actually talk to your ancestors that have passed on. Grandmother or grandfather, a mother or father, maybe you would go to their grave site and you would actually, converse with them and have a conversation. So, let me pass the mic over to Achrei. But again, that's just another one of these persons that you need to need to be shown everything. Over to you, Achrei.
Today for that, Rabbi Kefa. This is a very important question you asked about the graves, and of course, you and me witnessed those graves of the kings, and there were still caves over there, and those caves were used multiple times for multiple people. Now the cave in Hebron, Abraham's cave, I went over there back in 2016, and Hebron, that cave has been used from Adam to Abraham. Now you tell yourself, you can ask yourself, how many ancestors have been buried there? Many ancestors have been buried there, from Adam to Abraham, in Hebron. And I went over there, I took pictures, and you can find one of those pictures in in the Hidden Truths of Hebraic Scrolls. It's right there at the back pages, where I stand there in a cave, and there's a picture of me standing there with my hat on. So that cave has been used for many ancestors of ours, all the way to Abraham and many generations before that. But, the graves have been subsequently rebuilt on top of each other. So now the idea of, can we pray to the ancestors? This is why I said to you earlier, and I wasn't joking about it. I said that you could put, you could pray and say, in the name of HaKohen, I want this answered, and you will get it. Why? Because a Kohen has certain authority, and that authority is what counts. So when that man asks you the question, show me, he's being very ignorant of the books that he calls the Bible, and he reads them, but he can't see it because he's dead in his tracks. It's very simple. Rebecca, she took certain items of her family ancestors, the people that had died, and they used those for prayer. Now, God asked us, this is even more controversial, that God asked us directly, and what did God say? He said, you must pray in the names of Abraham, supposedly dead, right? Isaac, supposedly dead, and Jacob, supposedly dead. You must pray in their names. Now, are they dead to us, as people, as humanity? Are they dead or are they alive? To God, they are alive. They are not dead to God, because God said, I'm the God of the living. Well, if He's the God of the living, then of course those guys are still alive up there somewhere, right? Maybe they've come back a few times in reincarnations. But according to God's theology, this is God's theology, not mine, He says you must use those guys in your prayer. When the priesthood prays, He said, pray in the forefathers. Well, the forefathers are dead. Is that praying in the dead people's names? And the answer is, to most practical people, yes. Yes, it's praying in the dead people's names. But in God's eyes, they are not dead. They are still alive. Because they only pass from our world into the next world, which we can't see. They are still alive, and they probably come back 10 times already, maybe more. So my point is, yes, we are allowed to do that, and yes, we can do that. Yes, we can use figures, public figures. We can use prophets, and we can pray in their name. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can go to their graves and do it too. Nothing wrong with that. I went to Abraham's grave, and I prayed over there, and I prayed for many things. So does that mean I did the wrong thing? No, of course not. Because this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pray in Abraham's name, and Abraham is technically dead to us, but he is not dead to God. So the answer is, Kefa, Rabbi Kefa, yes, you can. And this is why I said that if you made I don't have a statue, like a little kind of, figurine. If you made my figurine and you put it up and you prayed to it and you said, I want something, and in the name of HaKohen, you'll get it. And I can prove it, that you will get it. But, I'm not here to prove, theories, but I'm telling you that you'll get it, just by asking in my name. Why? Because I have the authority as a living person, as a Kohen. Now, let me give you a little testimony, which is kind of interesting. And the testimony is this. This actually happened, by the way. This man from Ghana, I have never met. I don't know who he is. He told me that he was somebody's, I guess, not real son, but he was, yes, you can use a picture too. He was like a I don't want to call it step, because he wasn't a stepson either. It was like you take somebody as a son. Like you call somebody your son, but you're not really, you're not connected to the wife, you're not connected to the family. You just say, okay, from today, so-and-so man is my son. Yeah, like a godson. This man became the godson of somebody who used to come to this room, who knew me. And he doesn't come any longer. He's already departed, like he's kind of backslidden in the faith. He's no longer practicing Torah. And this man lives in London somewhere. And I don't even have no connection. I don't speak to him. I don't have no connection with him. When we were together, Rabbi Jeremy in London, he used to come to the Rabbi Jeremy's class sometimes. But no longer he comes, okay? So this young man, was taken as godson by this man in London. He must have gone to Ghana and visited the place and taken him as a godson. Now he went to somewhere in Dubai, and this is going back a couple of years, by the way. He went back to Dubai. He went to Dubai to do some work, and he from Dubai, he had some problems, couldn't find a job or something, and he ended up going to United Arab Emirates, UAE, which is next to Saudi Arabia. He went to United Arab Emirates, and he ended up in some problems. Like there was a fight, between some black guys over there, and he was standing there. His friend was involved in the fight, and then the police did a case. The UAE police did a case on him, saying that you are also involved. And he said, I wasn't involved. I never punched the guy. I never hit the man. I just know the man who was part of that fight. He was my friend. And I was standing there, and that's all I did was stand there. I didn't do nothing. I didn't provoke a fight and didn't fight. And they put a case on me. And they're going to deport me. And they're going to send me back to Ghana, wherever he came from. And he wrote to me. He said, I heard from my dad that you are a Kohen. Now this man's never seen me. He's only heard about me. And he said, he wrote me an email saying, or text message. He sent me a text message on WhatsApp at the time. Because they had my old number, and I don't give my number any longer to, majority of the people don't have my telephone number now. Because, I get all these stupid messages coming from Ghana. So, this man said, I, got your telephone number from my dad, and he said that and I believe. Now, I don't know what his dad believed, because his dad is long gone. He's no longer in practicing and in the faith. But he said that I believe that you are the Kohen. I have a belief system. My belief system says that yes, you are the Kohen. and I'm right now stuck in a problem. They're going to kick me out of the country. Can you please stand for me and pray for me that they don't do that, that I get away from this case, I get free from this case, and I don't get kicked out. Because if I go back to Ghana, I only got dust to eat over there. Because that's all Ghana is, dust, it's like nothing there for him. So I said, okay. I said, who are you? And he said, oh, I'm such and such. And I said, oh, that person. I said, that person's long gone. He is not with us. And you come to me. And he said, yeah. He said, I know that person's never tithed to you. He says, I know he doesn't tithe to you. I know he doesn't come to your room. I know he's long gone. But I believe still that you are the Kohen. You need to help me. I said, okay. I said, all right. One-off favor for you. I said, go. I said, your case will be dismissed and you will not be removed from the country. And he went. And I never heard from him after that till 2 days ago. 3 days ago maybe. He wrote to me an email. This is after 2 years after the event. And he stayed in the country. The case was dismissed. And he was in the country doing whatever work he was. And he never wrote to me, never sent a penny in tithe, ever. And he comes back to me and says, Rabbi, I've got a job lined up. And I think that I had hepatitis B or hepatitis C, one of those, back in 2016. I was diagnosed with it, and now I'm fearful that they might not give me the job if they find out I have hepatitis, C. So can you please pray for me that I'll get the job and, I don't get removed from the country, because this job will keep me in the country and give me a nice pay as well. So I said to him, I got angry with him. Because I said, you are the same man that came to me 2 years ago. And after that I didn't hear from you. I said, you stupid, ignorant man. I said, don't you know what the protocol is of a Hebrews? I said, don't you know how you come before God? You come before God like begging and, give me. I said, you're supposed to do something first. When was the last time that you sent any tithe in? When was the last time you put any zadaqah out? I said, go and learn the protocols of the God of Israel. Get out of my face. And then he wrote back to me apologizing and saying, Rabbi, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. I didn't do that. And I'm sorry. And I've got to learn these things. And yes, I will learn these ways. But please, help me now to get past this. So I said to him, okay, this is your last chance. And I will. And I did. So my point is that never is never. Kohen is a Kohen in the gate, and a Kohen's word counts. This is why I keep saying to you, Kohen's word counts. If I said yes, it will be yes, all over the world. I don't care where I stay and say yes. It will always be a yes. I spoke to my wife 2 days ago, and I was saying to her, something happened back there in Pakistan, and there was some family member. And I said to her, this woman got the virus. And this woman got the virus, and her son and daughter were both doctors in Pakistan, qualified doctors. And their mother got the virus. Of course, they couldn't treat it. They took her to the hospital, and the hospital was charging them $700 a day. Now listen to this carefully. That family member, is related to my wife. And and it's his sister who was ill. And he came to my wife and said, you guys, my sister, who's both son and daughter are doctors, they placed their mother in a hospital that charges $700 a day. Now listen to this. You see, you people think that Pakistan is a poor nation. Well, if Pakistan is a poor nation, how the hell are they paying $700 a day? And yes, they were paying $700 a day. And I said to my wife that if these people continue paying $700 a day, within a month, they will end up bankrupted. Even if the son and daughters are doctors, they are clueless what they are doing. They are absolutely ignorant of the disease and of the prognosis and of how to treat their mother. And they've taken them to the wrong hospital, which is charging $700 a day. For what exactly? For gloves and for wearing mask and giving you discipline? I laughed. I said, this is the kind of stupidity happening over there. Or maybe injecting you with water and saying this is a COVID vaccine. So the point is this, that I told her, I said, you know what? If they don't remove that woman from that hospital, she's going to be dead. She's going to be dead. Number one. Number two, they're going to rake off enough money from this family, and they're going to bankrupt them. And number three, I said, we have some medicine in the house. I would advise you, because she is related to you indirectly through this man, that I know him personally. I went to his house many times, and I said, this man, you know, this man is your cousin. So I said, my suggestion is take 20 capsules. I had some medicines over there already of Artemisia. I said, take 20 capsules of Artemisia and take some other medicines that I have and send these off to that woman. But she needs to take them in order to live. And you know what they did? They sent the medicines, my wife wrapped up the medicine just as I instructed her. They sent it off, and the hospital said, no, you can't give this. We are using our own medicine. And then they basically discarded that medicine. And I was so angry with that why, they're listening to the hospital, who was going to kill them. And I said to my wife, next time, we do not give anybody medicine free. We keep the medicine, and we only use it for those people that come to us and are, somebody that we really care for and we really want to help. Because we're not going to just dish out medicine to everybody only to be thrown in the bin and the garbage can. I said, I spent a lot of money, travel time, and hours of, waiting on planes and airports to bring this over here. And yet this is what happens to this. And she said to me, okay, I understand what you're saying, and this is how it shall be. So I stopped it, and I said, I'm not going to help nobody over there with medicine unless I know that person is genuine and wants to be helped. And so that's what happened. Then there was another corona patient in a hospital. Now this is from a poor family. And I sent medicines to that person, but I sent instructions. I said, do not tell the hospital you're taking this. You got to take this on the side quietly if you want to be helped, and the rest is up to God. And so that the other person is doing that, and that medicine wasn't returned. So it's all about what again I come back to the hukh. It's a task. Are you going to follow the hukh that the Kohen said, or are you going to just do your own thing? Don't come back to me 2 years from now and say, sorry, I didn't ever tithe to you, I didn't ever send any zadaqah, but please help me, and I'm stuck in the rut right now. Because I'll say, no, I'm not going to help you. So that is my testimony, Rabbi Kefa. Yes, you can pray to the dead, and we are actually commanded to pray to the dead and our dead forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and list goes on. It doesn't stop with Jacob, by the way. It goes on to many other righteous rabbis and prophets and Kohanim. And yes, it's allowed. And Tada, and I'll pass the mic to you.
Yeah, Tada Baha Queen. My desire is that that person's in this room. I don't know if he's here or not, but maybe he'll listen to the recording and really get an understanding of this. I mean, you're right. Something that's is so simple can be right powerful right there in his face. It's right there, clear as day. But again, these are people that want proof. These are people that want proof. Show me, show me, show me, show me. Y'all forbid that this is your mentality, or war mentality is to show me, show me, show me. When, our directive, our mandate is to be taskers. Apropos, I titled the name of my lecture, The Keepers. And truly, who are the keepers of the keep? The Kohanim are. So, it's all about us following, as the keepers, following what the keep is telling us to do. And it brings me right to our Parsha. And I tell you, it's sometimes it's so simple, yet people out here want the complexities. They want you to, dissect, the books of Moses and do all this in-depth study and, prove all of their proof so that they can do what? Continue to want to, proof. Oh, show me, give me proof. Give me proof. Don't let that be you. Please don't let that be you. Don't have that kind of mentality where you need proof. Now, my instruction to him was going to be this. Well, if you want proof, how about you do it and prove it, either yay or nay? You see, that would be the proof right there, because, this is showing you from where our ancestors' point of view is irrelevant to 2021. How about you test it? How about you take it on as a task, you test it, put it to the test. If it works for you, fine. But I found in the study of humanity that people that have the show me mentality, these types of individuals have a diluted belief system. Their belief system is basically watered down because the show me weakens them. It's like kryptonite to really how they believe. Because even with proof, they'll come up with another reason why they won't be successful at the task. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people like that. There are loads of people that are just like that. They need a crutch to excuse away why they cannot be successful, why they cannot be happy, why they cannot be at peace, why they cannot be in love with themselves, why they cannot show compassion. They need a crutch. And in my study, I've been really watching these past 6 days of labor. Just sit back and watching individuals in humanity as a student of human nature, and continuing to understand, the nuances of individuals, because we're all different. We come from the same source, Book of Shem, but we're all different in many ways because our belief systems, they're not fantasies, what we believe, because what we believe is really, that's our faith. That's our faith. Yael wanted to say, by the way, Al-Goyim, the light has done wonders on my knee in just 2 days of use. I think you're talking about the infrared light there, Yael, woman of the tent. So it's very, very important that we understand that. Very, very important that we be on the lookout for that. Very, very, very important. Very important, Mishpahah, as students of human nature, and be mindful of it, and be on guard, as the keepers. And when the keep, meaning the Kohanim, give us instruction, the Torah, the Siddur that this man had, that he has, it was written and put together by HaKohim to keep. And so, as a keeper, we just need to follow through with the instruction. Not to say that you cannot have any questions. I'm not saying that. But, and as a student of human nature, you can really tell a lot about individuals just by the questions that they ask, right? You can kind of tell their level of understanding and really what they believe in. You see, if you just sit down and just have a conversation or just listen to the words that come out of their mouth. You see, because real quick people going to want to put you in categories, and they already have a lot of these firewalls up. Like this one guy who he came in earlier, right, James? You saw him. He came in here and he wanted to know what everybody was. What are you? Are you a Jew? What are you? Are you a Christian? Is he already? He has a firewall. That's one firewall, probably of many other firewalls that people put up that'll prevent you from holding a conversation with a human being, not based on any prejudices. Well, what do you believe in? Who do you believe? Oh, this is a big one. Christians will always hit you with this one. Are you a believer in Jesus, brother? Do you believe in Jesus? And as soon as if you say no, then automatically they're cutting you out. You're the devil. They're rebuking you, or they don't want to be associated with you in no way, shape, form, or fashion. But as the keepers, and let's go and read that from our Parsha. We're going to look at that in our Parsha. Let's look at Leviticus chapter 18. I'm going to read from verse 1, probably all the way to verse 5. Leviticus chapter 18, I read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth Embrace Scrolls. You don't have this Bible, really get it and really enhance your study. Add it to your library and utilize it. And I'll tell you, you can put it up to any Bible that's out there, and it's gonna just immerse them. It's just gonna surpass them, 10, 20, 1,000-fold. This is really a great Bible to get understanding. The commentary alone will blow you away with the understanding of the ancient ways, the forever ways of our forefathers, and really how we practice things, and really what we're supposed to be doing. So look at Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, I am Yahweh your power. You must not do as they do in the land of Mitzrayim, where you live, and as they do in the land of Canaan, where I will bring you with a shin. You shall not do, neither shall you walk in their ordinances. I'm going to stop right there at verse 3 for a minute. What are all these doings? See, again, let's talk about all these doings. The Most High, the powers of Israel, is telling and instructing through Moshe to tell the keepers, look, if you want to keep the land, there's a certain way that you must do things. Not, well, show me. No, it's all about doing, like Yael, woman of the tent, is telling you. It's all about what we do, and just keep doing until you find what works for you and what's comfortable for you and what's going to help build that feel factor within you, that belief system that's going to propel you to wherever you want to go. You need that fuel that's going to propel you. And I never got that fuel in Christianity. I never got it in Catholicism. I didn't get that fuel that was going to propel me. I was always running on empty. I was always like, man, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, there's got to be more, How many of you are with me? There's got to be more to life than this Christianity mumbo-jumbo. Then Hagee telling me this, that, the other, the third, and get some goosebumps, and then I'm still left with nothing. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man, there's got to be more to it. Life, there's got to be more to it. Well, I was with the wrong keep. So for me, as a keeper to keep, I had no comprehension of what to keep, because my keeper was off base and was not in alignment with what I was comfortable with. So I couldn't establish and build a belief system, because I didn't believe in Christianity. If I believed in it, then I would have stayed put and planted and rooted some deep roots in the ground. But there was no belief system there. And I can see it in my father's actions as I was coming up. My father would always hop and skip from one place to another place to another place. We were always going to different churches, trying different things. And I respect that in him. Why? Because he wasn't happy where he was. So he couldn't sit down and plant, because he was uncomfortable. He didn't say it, but his actions spoke. Yael, woman of the tent, his doings spoke. I looked at his doings. Man, why are we going to another church? Why are we going to another church? Why am I having to get baptized again? Why I got to do it again? We get baptized another time and another. What is this? My father was telling me by his doings that, look, he wasn't comfortable. He wasn't comfortable under this pastor. He wasn't comfortable under that priest. I don't know if you know the story about my father, and I'm sure glad he did this. My father didn't want to pick cotton in Louisiana. He didn't want to do it. My grandmother told him, me and my grandmother had 12, sons and daughters, and all of them were going to participate in sharecropping, picking cotton in Louisiana to, put food on the table. But my father, he didn't want to pick any cotton. So his only avenue, his only way out of picking cotton in Louisiana was to go join the priesthood. And I'm not talking about the priesthood of Israel. He joined the priesthood. You see, he joined the priesthood of the Catholics. So he went to a monastery to learn how to be a priest. This is my father. Well, you're like, well, Rabbi Kefa, how are you here today? And your father was going to be a priest when they don't marry. Well, that's the interesting part of the story. Well, my father, he gets to the monastery. He stays a few weeks, and then he's learning different things, and he's going to classes. And then when he found out that he could not be married to a woman and he couldn't have any children, that's when my father went into 007 mode. He went into special ops mode, and he broke out of the monastery and he went back home to Louisiana. He got on the first thing that was smoking, first buzz that was smoking down there in Louisiana, back to Louisiana from Chicago, and he went back home. And he gladly picked cotton. But he was definitely, he told me he was definitely looking for other ways. He was definitely looking for other avenues to, prevent himself from having to pick cotton. He had that mindset, even as a youngster that he was, is to work smarter and not harder. You know what I mean? To work smart. You don't have to be out there picking cotton. Have any of you seen a person's hands that picks cottons? Have you ever seen their hands? Especially those that don't use those specialized gloves. My goodness, their hands are like a hot mess. They're all scratched and scarred from picking cotton because cotton has many thorns in it. How many of you ever actually picked cotton before? I mean, yeah, I tell you, it's something else. It really is something else. And it's a lot of hard work. And it's labor intensive. And it is, from what I'm told from my ancestors, is that it's not a job to be admired. So, so even my father, even at that age, he realized, look, Christianity, Catholicism was definitely not for me. So, he went on and fathered, 5 children, Baruch Hashem, and I'm the firstborn of those 5. So, I give thanks. I truly give thanks to my father for making that decision. But even in my father's mind of thought, he knew he wasn't comfortable. He knew he was a Hebrew. He knew he was a Hebrew. But not that he knew that he was a Hebrew, but his doings and his actions was like, look, I'm not comfortable in these religions. And that went on my whole life with my father. We would hop and skip them. I can tell you the nuances about all these religions because I've been in them for at least a little minute. You know what I mean? And that's a great benefit. That the role that HaKohen, my keep has me in now as a keeper. My role that my keep has me in now to assist others that are coming out of these religions. You know what I mean? Because not only can I sympathize, but I can empathize with them. And I want all of you family members to see it that way as well. Don't look at your experiences in the nations, because you got to remember we were mixed in these nations. And it's not for a curse, but for a blessing that we were mixed into these nations. And just like someone said earlier about the mixed children, we all mixed children in here. There's nobody 100% of nothing. and that's the beauty of it, because then you can't ostracize one over the other based on what? What are you basing it on? These are baseless claims, and like Achrei said, many folks today are just following lies, and they made their lies their truth, and then that truth comes their belief system, and I tell you, they'll believe it with every ounce that's within them. I'm telling you, they do. I see it all the time. I see it all the time, and you should see it as well. You gotta be able to see this, and so that you can understand that they're not hating you, they're following a lie to begin with, so it's baseless. But they have to uphold their lie. Otherwise, what else do they have? Because most of humanity is not susceptible to want to change, especially after they've been doing something for such a very long time. And to honor the ancestors like the grandmama and them and the mama and them, not to disrespect them in any kind of way, they want to hold up that beacon or that mantle, even though it's baseless. You know what I'm saying? It's flawed from Jump Street. From day one it's flawed, but they'll hold it up. Because the majority of humanity, they're not susceptible to want to change. Look what's going on here in America. I don't follow politics that much, but I can see that there's a big division between a Democrat and a Republican. And whoever gets elected, there's always going to be one side that's not happy. Well, we all need to come together as one people, as one nation, for the commonwealth and for the good of all of humanity, especially from all those folks that are here in America, and not look at the negativities based upon a class. Again, politics is another firewall that people put up. Or you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. Who did you vote for? Blah blah blah. To me, that's irrelevant. It's just like this man's question. This is why I didn't respond to him yet in his voice message, because it's an irrelevant point, man. If you believe everything in that Siddur and your task is to carry it out and you do it and it works for you, Baruch Hashem. But if you don't have any belief in the Siddur or anything that's in it, then don't follow it. Don't do it. And nothing will materialize from it. And I've been thinking about that all this week. I'm like, man, it's based upon what people believe. and how they establish their belief system. Some people's belief system is established based upon what they see, while others' belief system is established based upon what they do. I believe in this because I did this task and it worked, so I'm going to rinse and repeat it. While others, they say, well, I can't believe on this yet because I don't have enough proof. And so they never get on with their life. So you see what I'm talking about? How you have the two classes, the show me person and the do me person? The show me person and the person that does. There's a big difference. But in humanity, you will see these types of people. Your 6 days of labor, look for that. And and I don't mean to look for that so you can be judgmental of them. No, so you can understand where they're coming from. And so, you can give them encouragement. And if they're happy with where they're at, Baruch Hashem, you can empower them. And say, hey, if you're happy, believing that way, if that's your belief, hey, more power to you. If that's giving you happiness, if that's giving you peace, if that's filling you with joy and love, then so be it. But don't try to take your belief system and rub it on me or try to infuse that in me and make me feel bad because I don't believe the way you're doing it because that don't work with me. Your reverse psychology, that doesn't work with me that way. We can respectfully agree to disagree, you see, because my belief system is totally the way I feel. And believe it or not, that's what your true faith is how you feel. Learn that from Achrei. It's how you feel. How do you feel? Well, I feel like I need proof. Well, if you get the proof, what are you going to do then? Well, I feel like, how do you feel? Well, I feel like if I do it, then it'll work for me. Well, then that's just what it's going to be. It's going to be just as you say it's going to be. Because that is your belief system at the end of the day. So, back to Leviticus chapter 18 and 3. We must not do like they do in the land of Mitzrayim. We can't, what are they doing? What were they doing? You see, the same way with the nations. As we coming out of these nations, it's still in these nations, but again, everybody want to make Aliyah back to Israel. Kohen and I, we're experts in this. We can tell you, you don't want to go live in Israel right now. You can go and visit, go pay homage, go down there to Tel Aviv and see those fields that are plowed over and how peaceful and quiet it is out there. I tell you, it's beautiful. And not all the hustle and bustle of the tourism and making almighty dollar with all these tour buses going and you're bowing down and sticking papers into a Roman garrison wall and all. Hey, but you go see that stuff for yourself and then get back into the nations and continue to be prosperous and continue to be at peace and in love with yourself and continue to do marvelous and great things in these nations where the Most High has placed you until He brings us back. But you see all these people, you want to make Aliyah, you want to make that pilgrimage back to Israel, but you must remember first, the pilgrimage, the Aliyah starts within first. Before we can have a mass exodus back to the land physically, mentally, subconsciously, we have to get that Aliyah right there first. And that's just what I see happening now. The keep is preparing the keepers. And, the tasks are for us, and I don't say that to be selfish, but that's just what it is. The tasks are for us individually. What are our tasks? Well, what are our desires? What do we want? You see? Right now. Your Israel is wherever you at right now, because you are Israel. So wherever you set foot, that's your land, Mishpah. Wherever you place your feet, wherever Tom and Jerry, that left foot and right foot, wherever they step, that's you. You own that. You take dominion of it because it's yours. Claim it. Don't be intimidated by it, Mishpah. Do you see another one of the great blessings of the dispersion? I mean, we've been given and granted many, many lands, haven't we? And they're not just attached to, the borders of Israel, which will be extended, by the way, in the future. But it's not just the borders of Israel. Your lands are wherever you set foot. I know, Shane, you've done some traveling. Achrei has done some traveling. Wherever Wherever you set foot, these are your lands, and you can claim them for yourself. And leave blessings in these places. And set up bases in these places if that's your desire. Hashem. But don't feel like you left out. Don't feel like you're, look at a map of the world. That's all yours. That's your dominion. Israel borders, when you look in retrospect to the whole world, is very small, right? When you just look at the borders of Israel. But when you begin to read in our holy books and you realize that we've been dispersed to the four corners of this world, then you understand that our borders have been extended, haven't they? Isn't that beautiful? You YouTubers, you like to surf on YouTube, do your YouTube surfing? Don't be hoodwinked and bamboozled by those folks that's telling you that, Israel is where it's at. Israel is wherever you're at. Not, we got to get back to Israel. We got to get back to the Holy Land. Because I tell you what, this land that I'm in right now, here in San Antonio, Texas, is holy as well. Baruch Hashem. So that aliyah needs to take place within first. Journey within inside of our subconscious and get everything fixed within, Mishpahah. We have tasks that we have to, begin to get very, very effective at doing. Because now we're with the real keep now. We're with the real keep. This is not none of that, and believe me, I'm planting deep roots. I'm planting deep roots and watering my trees. And they're growing deep because I'm home now. You can't tell me that I'm not home. There's a lot of stumbling blocks that come your way in the form of communications, in the form of knowledge. That if you believe it, if your belief system is not firm, you'll begin to believe some of that stuff, to where you begin to speak it and then you begin to believe it. You begin to think about it. Just like our coach was saying, he was speaking with one individual, they talking about this person, Neville Goddard was saying, Abraham was fictitious. He didn't really even exist. My goodness. If your belief system is weak, and you begin to feel, maybe Abraham really didn't live. Maybe Neville is right. Again, your belief system and how you believe, that's the base of your faith. How you feel. Well, I'm starting to feel like Neville Goddard was right. God forbid. Abraham never existed. Neither did Moses. My goodness, come on, man. But if that's what you want to believe, and this is what happened to us as a people. We got dispersed in these nations, and we began to receive the conditioning of these nations. Now we're unconditioning ourselves. We put more shampoo in there, and we're unconditioning. Baruch Hashem. Coming out of that stuff. Shabbat Shalom, Nashon. Shabbat Shalom, Nashon. Yeah, the Papa. There. Yeah, so we must understand, and it's very important that we do understand it, Ishmael, is that we don't fall for those same traps. The same traps in the land of Mitzrayim and Egypt, and the same traps in Canaan. You see, these are all, their doings is what they were judged on. It's their doings that got them in trouble. Not, I need some more proof. It wasn't their proofs that got them in trouble. It was their doings. What were they doing? Well, I can guarantee you it was this. They were doing injustices. Nay. That's right, Nashon. They were doing injustices to folks. In Canaan and in the land of Mitzrayim, as you all know today. A lot of injustices was taking place. When you look at humanity as a whole, they weren't being fair to everybody. They were not being fair to everybody, Mishpahah. And we have to examine that going forward. And always remember that we too were at one time slaves. Our forefathers were. I was never a slave. Any of you in this room was a slave? I was never a slave. I was only a slave to myself at one time because I was a slave to myself because I didn't understand that I had control. I always thought I had to look outside for control. Somebody can control me from the outside. And I realized, thanks to my keep, is that the control comes from within myself. You see, the control comes from within myself. I take control. I'm in control. I'm in control. So we must understand that. Look at Leviticus chapter 18, verse 4. You shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein. I am Yahweh, your power. Baruch Hashem. Even at that point, how do we realize what we're supposed to keep? This is why the keep is so important. The Kohanim, the keep. As keepers, what are we supposed to keep and how are we supposed to keep it? Shabbat Shalom, my son. How are we, what are we supposed to keep? And how are we supposed to keep it? And this is why the keep is so important. Well, we're told in Leviticus chapter 18, verse 4, and you shall do my judgments. What are those judgments? I go ahead and just explain that again with the hookah, the task. The tasks are at hand. The task given, are you performing them? That's the question. Are you going to put them into play? Like Achrei said, are we going to be disciplined enough to do them? My goodness, I have those 3 tasks memorized. I took a picture of them, put them in my phone, and I've been reading them in my phone all week. When I get an opportunity, I lift up my phone and I read them. Now they memorized. They memorized now. And I'm rolling with those too. Add them to my repertoire. Add them to my resume. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Keep my ordinances in Leviticus chapter 18, verse 4. And to walk therein. There's a certain way we walk. You see, our way of life is not a religion. So when a man come in here, James, he say, well, what, are you a Christian? Are you a Jew? I'm a follower of the way. I walk a certain way. We live a lifestyle. It's our livelihood. It's our life. Baruch Hashem. And that brings me to the next verse. Leviticus 18 and 5. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall have life in them, for I am Yahweh. That's where life comes from. There's a lot of folks that we have life on this earth, but we're not living. A lot of folks have life, but they're dying. They're not living. Just by the words that come out their mouth, they're killing themselves. Every day, just taking bits and chunks of pieces out of the vibrance of life, out of them. They're just sucking it up. Just by how they speak about themselves. And just by the words that come out of their mouth. I don't know about you all, but I'm living an abundance of a life, Mishpachah. And then life just gets more abundant every single day. An abundance on top of abundance, on top of abundance, on top of abundance. Every day just gets more beautiful. Every day I just make my paradise even better. I was telling one of my co-workers, I was like, man, why go through life, or, you look at this day, why not go through the day happy? When, the day is still going to go on, whether you're happy or sad. So I just choose to just be happy and go through the day. Why go through the day sad? Yeah, events are going to come your way, experiences are going to come, but, why not handle and tackle those experiences happy? Well, why not? I choose to be happy. I'm not going to sit here and be sad. I'm going, because I understand whatever comes my way, there's good in it. I just have to find it and be grateful for the good that's in it, because there's always good in every one of your situations right now, family members. Every one of your circumstances right now, every one of your experiences right now, there is total good in it. You just have to find it. There's good in it. But majority of the time, folks just want to look at the negativity. They see the situation on the surface and say, man, this is no good for me, when it is totally great for you. Because like Achrei said, you are greatness. You're great. You tell yourself, I am great, then you have to believe and you have to feel like you're great. Well, how do I feel like I'm great? How do I feel like I'm great? How do I feel like I'm wealthy? Kadar Rabah going for those videos, man, I tell you, going to send me these videos about, people fulfilling their desires and having great homes and marvelous homes and homes with all of these ideas that they have, that they have imagined in the physical. Beautiful homes, beautiful cars. I saw me this one video about this guy bought this mansion, and the mansion came with 2 cars. It came with a Rolls Royce, I think, and a Bentley or something. That came with the mansion. I'm like, yeah. It came with the mansion. But people are living this way, and that's how you build that greatness within you. Whatever you desire, you need to see it. You need to see that people are doing it. Like Achrei said, there's a lot of millionaires and billionaires in the world. Why can't you be one? There's a lot of successful relationships in the world. Why can't you have one? There's a lot of people doing great things for society and for the world. Why can't you do it? Whatever you desire, find who's doing it, see it, watch it. It'll become real to you, and you'll realize, if this man can do it, I can do it too. If our cousins over there in what they call the Middle East can do it, I mean, how much more so can we do it too? We're from the same family. And our covenants are better, Bukashim. So we can do the same thing too. What limits us is self. What limits us is, let's just say discipline and maybe lack of execution. And maybe our desire not to follow through with the task. Or to give up because of what other people tell us. Let me remind you, you must not do as they do in the land of Mitzrayim. We're not here to think and do and believe the way they do. We're not to have the Egypt mentality or the Canaan mentality. We're not here to do that. Because we have been placed in these lands. We're in these lands right now. So it should be no surprise that they come to us, with all they mumbo jumbo. This is what they do. We shouldn't be surprised. That shouldn't surprise us. But what's going to stand out in us in these nations as the beacons, as the lights to these nations that we've been dispersed in, that we've been scattered in our diaspora? What's going to differentiate? What's going to separate us? Is by what people going to look at us and they're going to see there's something different with these people. Well, how are they going to do that? By the task, by what we do, by how we live our lives. They're going to desire what we want, Mishpachah. They're going to want that same thing too. This is why the first exodus must take place within. Can't be an exodus back to the land. Physically prepared. Subconsciously, we're not prepared. And we sit in these lands and these nations and we wait. But we don't just wait idly. We wait doing great things. We wait having paradise wherever we're at right now. Wherever we may be. You see? Because I want life, and I understand Torah is life. I really do understand it, and I believe that with every part of my being, that Torah truly is life. If you embrace the Torah, it will become real to you. It will become real to you. And I understand what faith really is. And you'll feel how real the Torah is to you when you begin to do it. When you begin to truly apply it, Mishpachah, and become the keepers. Leviticus 18:4 says, and you shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances. We're the keepers. People are going to see this. They're going to see, look at these tasks these people are doing. Look at how they treat other folks and not even associated with them. They treat them with love and respect and compassion. I want to be like that. I want that. They don't throw up all these firewalls of I'm gonna segregate against you because of your skin color, or your hair texture, or your political stance, or your religious affiliation. I just follow the way. The lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that we live. It's how we live our life. Torah is life. It's a lifestyle. It's not a religion. I'm not caught up and swamped by Judaism, and not hoodwinked and bamboozled by Judaism. I'm far from that, thanks to my keep, thanks to the Kohen in the gate, Rabbi Simon out there. I'm no longer hoodwinked and bamboozled by that anymore either, by that religion. We're following a way of life. And we walk that way every single day. And we continue to get better and better continuously. We're getting better every single day. And that's a definite. Every single day we just get better at this and better. We may not desire and become master manifestors, but we'll manifest at our potential and our capability because we got to keep. We got to go in the gate. And so we can be keepers. And we can guard and protect and respect and honor His Torah and publish the name of the Most High. I am not trying to say Yahweh. We're in the tub. In that water before he starts saying, Yahweh, Yahweh. Baruch Hashem. We're the keepers. And we're going to pass this on. And it's going to continue. Even after I take my last breath, after Harkoy takes his last breath, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop, Mishpahah. It's not stopping. There's another generation coming after us, and we must prepare them. We had first generation coming out of Egypt. Let's not make the same mistakes. Let's learn from our forefathers. If we go back, Hebrews, wasn't it a mixed multitude that came out? When we look at the festival of protection, it wasn't just, it wasn't just the Hebrews that came out. My goodness. A lot of other people saw, and they said, hey, we want to roll with you guys. It was a mixed multitude. We're told that in our holy books. It was a mixed multitude that Moses took out. Let's learn from the lessons that we were given from our forefathers. It's to, respect all peoples. Always uphold the Torah and the tasks that we have. Our tasks are ancient. These are ancient tasks that if we perform them, and we're disciplined, and we perform them, we cannot help but be, the blessed nation that we are. But we got to perform the task. We have to perform them. And, more importantly, in our performance, then we must believe. You must feel like, hey, man, this is working for me. And it will work, and it is working. Well, I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to try it. As we've been taught by our Kohen, our Torah has been tried, tested, and proven. It doesn't fail. We're not failures. Never see yourself as a failure. You're successful in everything that you do. If you make a mistake, you continue to go on. Brush yourself off. I mean, Nakshan, his little Chinese skin is so perfect, like his mother's skin, just that perfect skin. But Nakshan gets in the garden, he falls down, he gets bumps and bruises and scrapes all on him. And I'm like, man, that's your identity, son. Always remember, and I tell him this every time he falls down, son, when you fall down, you get back up. And I noticed this about Nakshan. He'll fall down, and he'll cry for a minute, he'll get back up, and he'll forget that he fell down. That's the way it should be, children of Israel. Don't sit there and ponder on your last fall. Just get up and keep walking and keep going. Don't ever be fearful of falling down again. You just, be confident that you're going to get back up. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, maybe this didn't work out the way you planned it, but okay, let's keep planning. And let's keep walking. Because we don't give up. And during our Cohen's lecture, I was just thinking about all the people that I knew that came through here that are no longer here. And how they just gave up on the keep. So they're not true keepers of our way because, if you can't do it by yourself. There's a system. Torah has a government that's set up. And it doesn't change. It's been established from the very beginning of time. And it does not change. We at one time, we didn't have a clue about the government and how it was run. And that's where the keep comes in, because he's going to tell you, okay, this is what we do. This is how it's done. Now just go out and perform it and truly live life. And live, because that's what the Torah is all about. And sure, you're going to have trials. Sure, you're going to have tests. They're going to come. That's all a part of it. Get your instruction from the keep. And as keepers of the way, you're unstoppable. You cannot be stopped. You're unstoppable. You're under the umbrella of the Torah. There's no way you can fail. There's just no way. Success, failure is not even a word. You don't even comprehend failure. Because when one door closes, Mishpahah, 12 others will open up for you. When one door closes, 12 will open up for you. Baruch Hashem. Remember that. And always have that mindset. Okay, this didn't work out. Now we're going this way, and it's going to work. And we're going to continue to work it until it works. Because you're determined. And nothing can stop you, Mishpahah. You're unstoppable. You really are. We really are unstoppable, Mishpahah. So there's a big difference, Mishpahah, between the show me person and the do person. The show me person. Well, show me, Rabbi, in the books of Moses. Show me, show me, show me. How about you go and do? Practice the way our ancestors did. They just did. They didn't need all this proof. They just did. Although they did get a lot of proof. But they just did. They were just doers. Do it. And come back and tell me your story. Do it and come back and give me your testimony. Do it. And do it with belief. Do it with a feeling that it's going to work and that it is working for you. And you cannot be stopped. Do it in love. And do it with respect for all people that are around you. With no resentment towards nobody. Because people don't understand the way you understand. And I would encourage you all this day to love all people. Regardless if they believe the way you believe or not. Regardless if they have the same faith that you have, like our forefather Abraham, or not. Doesn't matter. Love them through all their... love them through all their inconsistencies. That's how you see them. Their negativities. Love them through their negativities. That's what's going to separate you from them. You're going to say, wow, even though, we couldn't see eye to eye on this, you still respect me. You still treat me like a human being. You still treat me with respect and honor. That's what it should be. We're a different kind of people, Mishpah. And we're open to everybody. To everybody. And that's the way it should be. We're open invitation. And that's the way it should be. Because we hold up no... there's no prejudices here. None whatsoever. But for us to be successful, Mishpah, it's very important that we have a particular mindset about ourselves. Not so much wanting to prove this or prove that, Achrei talked about it in his lecture. Now they want to prove that Abraham is dead or never existed or blah, blah, blah. Well, at the end of the day, you know what it boils down to? Is where is your faith and what you believe in? Like Achrei mentioned in his lecture as well. Where is your faith and what you believe in? What do you truly, at the core, do you believe that Moses existed? Do you believe that Abraham existed? Then that's what you roll with. And that should be unshakable and unwavering. No one should be able to change that unless you don't have a belief. You don't have a belief. You haven't rooted yourself anywhere yet. You haven't planted yourself down the way you can root yourself anywhere. Then, you're susceptible to what's out there, to what you listen to and who you listen to. You might not be able to digest that, and then before you know it, you're caught up in more confusion, and that's how you get confused, and then even in more fear, because you start believing some of this stuff is just all wacky. I know some folks out here that's still waiting on Illuminati to come get them, and they got them on some kind of red list, and they've been spied on. There's people that fall into it. Yeah, Rabbi, I'm being spied on. They're tapping my phones, and they're listening to my conversations. I'm like, okay. Yeah, Illuminati, they come to get us. They got a red list or some black list for all of us, and they got to round us up. And they come, I'm like, okay, and we going to these FEMA camps, and they got to put, I'm like, my goodness, man. You can't get on with meet any march like that because you're running in fear. Your mind has you in fear mode. Conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. I mean, how can you get on? Oh, they coming for us, Rabbi. I can't talk long because my phone is being tapped. I'm like, Mike, who the hell are you? I mean, why are you so important to these? Oh, they're taking us all out, Rabbi. There's too many people on the earth, and they gotta take some of us out. I'll tell you. I tell you, if one thing after another, and these people, we talk about life. We just read in our holy books about how Torah is life, and you see what I mean? How life is being zapped out of them? They're living, but they're not living this far. It's because they believe one conspiracy theory after another conspiracy theory after another, and another, and another. And I'm like, well, how's all this being beneficial to your life? What are you doing in the meantime before they come pick you up and put you in some kind of concentration? Well, what are you doing? How are you preparing? What are you doing for yourself? Are you living in... Well, I had to quit my job because I'm trying to get off the grid. Why are you getting off the grid? My goodness. But again, these are the things that if you get mixed up and you begin to think and you begin to do as they do in the land of Mitzrayim, my goodness, you're confused. You're hoodwinked, you're bamboozled, you don't know whether you're coming or you're going, and you can't get on with any kind of life of meeting your marks, finding out what your desires are, and fulfilling your desires. Because you're so caught up in conspiracy theory, and you can't see the road for the trees. But yet, Mishpahah, there are a lot of people that are like that. And they just want to come to you with just more nonsense. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at them like, okay, now, all that stuff you just said, let's talk about you and yours. Oh, I don't have time for that. I can't, there's too many other things going outside of what I want. Oh, no. You see, you have the wrong perspective. But again, some people are going to live and die in fear. And that's just the take of it. That's the reality of it. Why? It's because they make fear their reality. And that becomes their reality. You did it to yourself. Because you said so. Like we talked about last year about. Because you said so. So again, this is what we have to deal with in this world. Is recognize that for what it is and keep it moving forward. Try to plant a seed of love and joy and peace within them. But again, if they're still planting seeds of their reality and watering the tree of fear, then it's just going to get stronger. And that's the state of being for a lot of individuals. They run in fear. Yael, woman of tennis, saying, that's like someone telling me my mother and father didn't exist because they have passed on, and I can show my parents to them to prove they existed. Oh, indeed. Yet they still want to tell you your mother and your father never existed. They were a figment of your imagination. That was a dream, and you're in another dimension now. So, you come from the ashes of the stars and blah, blah. I'm like, man, come on, man. If that's what you want to believe, believe it. But my foundation is firm. And my field and my belief system is firm. Okay. But there's a lot of weak-minded people. A lot. And they be in mind control. And I tell you, one of the biggest benefactors of fear is, what does it do? What it'll do is fear will allow individuals, and this is how I'm telling you, this is how they get you. It will allow you to fit into a group and to be subjugated. See, fear will put you into subjugation. And this is how they keep you, let's just say, for more of a better term, this is how they tame you. That's what fear does. It tames you. It'll keep you in your place. Where okay, this is my place and this is where I'm going to stay over here. Because if I get outside of that, if I go outside of those borders, you see, so this is what they do. And religion is one of the biggest ones that get you on this, is they leave you in fear so that they can tame you. And like you said, Chadasha, that's a good word. They confine you. And before you know it, you can't do anything because, you're worried about missing the rapture. And you're worried about that cross hitting you upside the head. It's that they contain you. And they keep you subjugated to whatever they want you to do. And you're going to do whatever they say you're going to do out of fear of missing the rapture, of going to hell. That's how they get you. And it's working. And a lot of people believe it. They believe the lie so much that it has become their faith. And they feel like they're in hell. They feel it. Oh, man. And they see visions and this and that, the other, the third. And they have all these ideas. And then they make movies about it and blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, man, that becomes their reality. And that's what it is at the end of the day, Miss Rahab. I'll continue to live in paradise, Miss Rahab. I will continue to live in paradise. I will continue to live in paradise. And I'm going to leave it right there, Miss Rahab. But remember, we are the keepers. What does a keeper do? Well, we got to keep doing our task. We got to keep doing our task. We're going to chill. We got to keep doing the judgments, man. Not being judgmental, but being fair to all people in the process of doing our task, doing whatever we want to do with our lives. All of you have desires for yourself. All of you have dreams. Let's go out and fulfill them. Let's knock them out. And create, and then what? And then imagine more dreams, and more dreams, and more dreams, and just keep it going. Because you're in paradise. You're in the Garden of Eden. Pick your fruit. Whatever you want, you can have it. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up for the Shabbat. I'll say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpachah. Have a wonderful 6 days of labor ahead. And be mindful of those people who are out there trying to show me people from the people that are just doing. Let's continue to go out and do as a light to the whole world, as a light to our nations, as a light to the whole world, and continue to publish the name of the Most High. Continue to publish the name of the Most High. Happy birthday, always and forever. Okay. Always and get younger and younger. Keep drinking that water. That water going to help you reproduce some good cells, and you're just going to keep getting younger and younger, young whippersnapper. So I go down. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Shoot, every day is birthday. Baruch Hashem. Every day is birthday. Hallelujah. So yeah, keep having them birthdays. Because we birthing and we birthing. Let's continue to birth. On that note, we'll wrap it up for the Shabbat. Over to you, Akohim. We turn it over to you, Akohim, to keep it in the good hands of the keep, and we keep doing as the keepers, keep doing what we need to do. Whatever you want to do. Shabbat shalom, shalom, shalom to all of you, Mishpah. Have a wonderful Shabbat and a great 6 days of labor ahead.
Yeah, Todah for that, Rabbi Kefa. We'll wrap it up over here, and I think everybody might want to go and prepare their lunch, dinner, etc. And so we'll call it a day, and we'll see you next week's next Shabbat. Todah, Shabbat shalom, shalom shalom. If you wish to support our work, you can go to www.forever-israel.com or www.Abrahamic-Faith.info, and there is a donate now icon for PayPal, and you can send in a donation of your choice from that particular address. You can also use Cash App, and you can use PayPal directly, and you can send a donation to Shimon63, SHIMOUN63 @yahoo.com, or you can send a donation to $SIMALT with the Cash App. We greatly appreciate your support in this endeavor for us to spread the truth and the correct way for people to better their lives and to serve the God of Israel in their lives. Thank you, and may you be blessed forever. Amen. We amen.